Hi everyone, welcome to today's OET Listening Part A class, all about getting specific. So our teacher Alexander is going to be coming into the class very soon, telling you all about how you can improve your performance in this area. So if you've not come to the class before, if you've never come to these classes, like I said, my name is Alex and I'm from Swoosh English, and we are experts in OET and IELTS. Today we're talking all about the OET examination, and like I said, all about OET listening part A. So thank you so much for coming along to today's class. We really appreciate all of the hard-working doctors and nurses, and that for that matter, you could be a dentist, you could be a physiotherapist, because there's lots of other medical professionals out there who are taking the OET exam. And remember, reading and listening is the same for all professions. So great to have any other kinds of medical professionals in here. Please let me know in the chat box if you're not a nurse or a doctor. But anyway, on to today's class. I want to see who we've got in today's session. I'm going to check Facebook Live as well, and we've got people on Zoom here. And if you do want to come inside the class and you're on Facebook Live right now, just go to swooshenglish.com/free class. That's swooshenglish.com/free class, and you'll be able to register and you'll be able to come inside and you'll be able to speak to two UK OET teachers, Alex and Alex. Two Alexes will be teaching you today. So let's see who we've got in the Zoom class. And why should you register for the Zoom class? Well, you'll have more opportunity to interact with us. We'll be able to answer your questions quicker than we would do on Facebook Live, and it just means that you can be with us inside, and we can, see we can give you much more practice as well. We've got Bridget, Larja, Tiapo, Jasmine. We've got lots of people. Who else have we got inside the Zoom class? Please let us know. And Sarah Joy, we've got. Who else have we got? Let's see who we've got on Facebook Live. Alex is going to be coming into the class in about 5 minutes or so, and we will get started. Let's see who we've got on Facebook Live. And let me know in the chat box, have you got your examination on 23rd of February? Or have you got your exam on the 16th of March? Or have you got it later than that? Please let us know, when is your exam? When are you booking it for? And what I should say is right now, if you don't know your level, if you don't know what level you're at, if you've only just started your preparation, please don't book your exam yet until you know that you're ready. A lot of students the biggest mistake that students make is that most of them book the exam far too soon when they're not ready to take it, and then they take the exam and then they don't pass. Remember, $500 is a lot of money, so we don't want you going ahead and taking the exam when you're not actually ready. So that's very, very important to note. So we've got Nas, lots of people. Larja 23rd, Jasmine 23rd. I hope you two are ready. I hope you know your level, because that is very, very soon. And I don't want you to take the exam if you're not 100% ready. 16th of March, Islam April, Simi Bobby April, Crispin 23rd, February, 16th of March, Fernanda, Crispin February, Tiapo February. Okay. Thank you very much. And let's see what we've got on Facebook Live. Okay, we've got Syed, 16th of March. We have got, who else? We've got Leah watching, one of our VIP students. Good to see you, Leah. Juliet, 23rd of February. We've got Shaylee, April. Okay, Kumar, I'm not ready yet on Facebook Live. Well, I'm glad you're honest about where you are right now, because like I said, so many students are booking the exam far too fast because they're desperate to come to the UK or Australia to start their jobs. But sometimes you need to be patient, but still work hard as well in the meantime. And also, my other advice is you need to find a teacher to tell you when you're ready to take the exam. You are not the best person to decide that you're ready to take the exam. It's much better a professional to tell you when you're ready to take the exam. The same way that doctors and nurses advise people, like all of you who are watching right now, You advise people when they should have an operation. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Me as a patient, I am not the best person to decide when I should have an operation. The same way that you are not the best person to decide when you're ready to take this exam, because you're not an English teaching professional. Am I right? Say, yes, you are right. If you think I'm wrong, then just say, yes, you are wrong, and then tell me why, okay? I would love to know what you think about that, because it's absolutely the case. Please do not book the exam when you are not ready, when you don't know yourself, okay? That's really, really important. And how can I find out my level? We do have a benchmark exam, Siley, Emmy. Yes, we do have a benchmark exam. You can go on our website. It's $20. It's very cheap. So $20 or $500 to take the real exam and fail. You would rather spend $20 to find out your level. So you can go on our website and find out about that. And Sharina is watching. Great to see you, Sharina. Sharina passed her exam. She got her results last week. I'm so happy about her results, and I couldn't be happier that she's on the way to the UK now in a few months' time. Okay, how can I join you on Zoom? Dakar, so you can go to swooshenglish.com/free class. I'll just type it in there for you. swooshenglish.com/free class. Okay, so you can join us on Zoom there. Yes, you are right, said Sabitha. Yes, you're right, Syed. Nazreen, yes, you're right. Okay, and this is not just my opinion. This is us helping thousands of students with IELTS and OET over the years. We know what works. We know who is successful and who's not. We've been able to compare the students who pass and the students who fail time and time and time again, because we've got a lot of students who pass first time. The majority of our students, they pass first time. So we know what works. We tell our students when they're ready. They come to us and say, I'm getting these scores, these scores, these scores, these scores in reading, writing, listening, speaking. Am I ready, Alex? Am I ready, Alexander? Fiona, Stephen, Russell, Damien, all of our teachers, we tell them when they're ready to take the exam. Okay. You're very right, said Islam. Completely agree with you, Hafida. Right. Okay, great. Okay, so I am going to bring Alexander into the class. He's our UK native OET teacher. Let me know if you've been taught by Alexander before in these classes. I hope you've had a lot of benefit from his teaching. We always get a lot of students, usually over 100 students every single week coming into our Facebook Lives. Make sure you share today's Facebook Live video to your page, and you will get our free mini mock exam for OET. So this is our reading and listening mock exam. So you get 2 exams in this. It's completely free, and you'll get access to this when you share today's video. So share the video to your page, step 1. Step 2, right underneath the video, I have shared the OET live class video. So I have shared the OET live class video, and we'll give you access to your free mini OET mock exam for reading and for listening. So I'm going to get on with today's class, and I'm going to bring Alex in. Let's see. Okay, Alexander is coming into the class. So let me know if you've been to the classes before. Were they helpful? Would you recommend them to other students? What did you learn last week? If you came to the class last week, what did you learn? Please let us know. I would love to know if you can still remember from 7 days ago. A lot of people forget what they did 7 days ago. Okay, Kumar said, my wife got 3 Bs, but she got a C+ in writing. How did she prepare, Kumar? If she only got a C+ in writing, I would guess that she probably did self-study and didn't have someone correcting and giving feedback on her writing. So that's what I would recommend. Most students out there are doing self-study. So it's difficult to know, like I said, when you're ready to take the exam, and also what problems you're having with your speaking and with your writing. If you don't have a teacher, you don't know. The wall does not reply, as I said before, many times in the classes. So you need someone to give you the feedback. Lots of people sharing the video. Fantastic. Okay. Juliet said, yes, you are right that we shouldn't book the exam too soon, but I've already booked it. What do I do, Alex? Well, Juliet, you can defer your examination on the OET website. Just go in, put in OET exam and then refund as the keywords on Google. And then when you go to the page, You'll be able to see how much it costs to defer it, to reschedule it for another day, how much it costs to refund, etc. So they do take a percentage of your money away based on when you booked the exam. I think it's within outside of the closing date and inside the closing date. And so you need to check that out online, but you can reschedule it if you feel you're not ready. Don't be putting yourself in a pressurized situation of, oh no, I need to take it because I've already booked it. Well, I would tell you to reschedule it if you don't feel that you're ready. Okay. So Kumar said yes, self-study. So Kumar, how does your wife know how to achieve a B if she's not had any feedback and corrections from a teacher? So that's what I would say to her. Find a good quality teacher. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to bring Alex into the class now. Let's see if I can see him. Alex, are you there? So I can bring you in. Okay. So let me know, are you ready for today's class today? Everyone, please let me know. Please make sure you have a pen and paper ready. Okay, lots of people. Naseem saying ready. Okay, Seema, ready. Okay, fantastic. So Alex, are you there?
Hello, yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Alex, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you doing today?
Very good, very good. So I've just been telling students about the importance of, I use the analogy as well, Alex, see if you agree or disagree with me, about when a patient, so you and I are, when we're not medical professionals, we're patients when we go to the hospital, we need an operation, but we don't know when we should take it. We don't decide when we have an operation. Well, in most cases we don't. So we ask a nurse or a doctor when we should have an operation. And it's the same thing about booking the exam. They need to come to us to recommend to them when they should take the exam, not they book it themselves without any proper preparation, without them knowing whether they're ready to get 4 Bs. Would you agree with that?
I think it's a good analogy, and it, you know, in terms of getting an expert or in terms of getting a professional recommendation, it can only be a good thing. So that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just because the exam costs so much. I don't like seeing students taking it again and again and again. I mean, I'm guessing you wouldn't want to pay $500 many times, would you?
No, of course not. I think the idea is when you get into the exam room, you want to feel like you're doing this in order to achieve a goal, not just taking a risk. It shouldn't be a game of roulette. You know, it should be something where you think, yep, I'm prepared for this. I've got a good sense I'm going to get what I need to get. And then you can move on. Yeah.
Yeah, I like the analogy of roulette. This is not Las Vegas, ladies and gentlemen. This is your future life. This is your career. So don't take risks when you're not ready. Because a lot of our students that Alexander and I and all of our other teachers have taught, they walk into the exam room feeling supremely confident because they know they've had that practice. So I'm going to pass you on to Alexander now. And I am hoping that you all take notes on today's class, all about OET listening part A.
Okay. So hello to all of those who are watching both on Facebook Live and also those who are part of the Zoom chat as well. There will be some moments during this class where I'll be asking for some participation. So please do get involved. It's always better to be actively participating rather than kind of sitting back and letting it wash over you, because if you're actively participating, then you can get more from the class. And the more engaged you are, the more useful it's going to be. So as Alex said, we're going to be looking at listening part A for today's session. And looking at some strategies in terms of how to approach it. I want to look at some tips which we can use before going into the exam room. So ways we can best prepare ourselves, as Alex was saying before, so that you can have more confidence once you go into the exam room. And also I want to look at some tips that you can use actually during the exam, which are going to help you best maximize the potential for getting a high score once you're doing the exam itself. So just to start off then with part A, listening part A as a general introduction, the number of questions that you're going to have to answer for part A. How many questions are there? Can you tell me, those of you who have done your practice and those of you who are familiar with the exam, how many questions are involved in part A? So we've got some suggestions here, 12 from Asma, Joseph says 24, Faisal 24. Okay, 12 plus 12. Great. Okay, so most of you then are giving the right response. It's 24 questions for part A. And the total exam, listening exam, how many questions are in that? Can anyone tell me that? Okay, great. We've got some responses coming in. Jasmine, Faisal, Seema, Joseph, good. Yeah, so 42 questions. So we can see then 24 out of 42 questions are based on part A. So that's more than 50% of the exam, which is going to come from that initial section. So it's actually very important that we are confident in answering the questions for part A and that we are best prepared for getting as high a score as possible. Because if not, then that's more than 50% of the questions which we are putting at risk. So Joseph has asked 40 or 42. It's 42 questions in total for the listening section, and 24 of them are in listening section A. So to start with then, I want to look at some tips that we can use before going into the exam room. And I'm going to use a little PowerPoint here just to provide some visuals as we go along. So let me just share that now. Okay. So first of all then, variety of accents. You can see there are some pictures here up on the screen in terms of some different accents which relate to the English language. How many accents would you expect to hear in the listening section of the exam? What do we think? Where might the accents come from? Which countries? And if we're familiar with it, which regions within those countries? Okay, so Faisal, I think we've got 7. I think that's a response to this question. 7 different accents. Which sort of countries? You can sort of see the representations on the screen, but what are the sort of most common accents which might come up for the OET? So definitely, they're all sort of English speaking. Yep. Okay, so Jasmine, UK, Australia, American, possibly Canadian. Yeah, absolutely. So the exam started in Australia, and it's a collaboration between Australia and the UK, different organizations. So you're going to hear a lot of accents from the UK, a lot of accents from Australia, the United States as well. It's very likely we'll hear accents from that country also. So those are the main ones. But the thing is, of course, if we hear, for example, a British accent, there's a lot of variety in terms of how those accents could sound. So if we're listening to a British accent from London, for example, that's going to be quite different to an accent from north of the border in Scotland, or even in the north of England. So the more familiar we are with listening to different accents, the better prepared we're going to be for what we hear in the actual exam. So in terms of different accents, for anyone who's sort of familiar listening to different accents, let's take, for example, British and American, because they are 2 of the most common accents in the English language. What are some of the differences that you might expect to hear between the 2? Can you think of some common differences? Maybe with the pronunciation of particular letters, for example. So Jasmine is saying spelling. Yeah, there are some differences in spelling, but I'm thinking more now, obviously, for the listening, when you're listening to the accents, how could they be different? Okay, so Fernanda's saying the R sound. So you can tell straight away from the way that I've just said the letter that I am from the United Kingdom, because of the fact that I'm saying R and I'm not saying R, which is what you would expect to hear from an American accent, or even if it was an Irish accent, you would expect to hear that's what we call sort of rhotic sounds, that R sound, as opposed to, you know, the R, which is almost more of a vowel sound when we make it from the UK. So when you're listening to particular words or phrases, let's say, for example, that we're recommending that a patient has, I'm going to write the word or the phrase here, the patient has this in their house, let's say, because of the fact that they're suffering from rheumatoid arthritis, and you know, maybe they should have sort of more heating. And so from the UK, I would pronounce this as a water heater. Okay, so you're not hearing that r sound at the end. Essentially, that sound is being dropped. But if you were from the United States, you'd be much more likely to pronounce it a water heater. Yeah, that's my best American accent. So you're hearing much more of a stronger r sound within that phrase. So, you know, these differences, they might seem quite small, but they can be quite sort of confusing for people who aren't used to them. So sorry, so this was the phrase that I was using before, and yeah, the British pronunciation, water heater, and the more sort of typical American pronunciation, water heater. Yeah, so if you're not used to it, it can be quite confusing, particularly those who aren't used to hearing a British accent. They can be confused by dropping those sorts of sounds and changing those sorts of sounds. And yes, Seema is saying, another example, bottle. So again, the English pronunciation here, we hit those t sounds, and that's what you would expect to hear coming from an English person. However, someone from the United States, they would hit more of a d sound. It would sound more like bottle. Yeah, so you're not hearing that same phoneme. So the t and the d sound also can be quite different. So there are a few different things that you're going to hear. There's the R sound, there's the t and the d. Some differences as well in terms of vowels. Again, looking at that word water, you know, it's an or, water, when you're pronouncing it from an English perspective, but an American might say something like wa, water, water, you know, so it's more of an rather than a r, which can come up. And yeah, Fernanda's saying that, yeah, sort of those sort of different sounds can also be a bit confusing. So best thing to do, listen to as much variety as possible. Obviously, you can listen to some ABC News, to listen to more of different accents from different parts of the world, BBC News from the UK, MSNBC from the United States. You can listen to lots of different accents online in order to become a little bit more familiar with this if you're not familiar already, because the more that you are familiar with the different types of accents that you're going to hear, the less confused you're going to be once you get into the exam room. So that would be one of the things you can do in terms of preparation before going into the exam room. For listening part A, it's always going to be a dialogue. There's always going to be two people speaking to each other. So it could be the case that you're listening to two different accents within that recording. And so obviously it's important to be familiar with those accents in order to avoid confusion. So the next thing that I want to look at here is it's another feature of pronunciation. Now, this is something which doesn't rely specifically on accent. It's something which all native English speakers do. And it's the fact that we don't always put boundaries or gaps between words when we're speaking. So if you have a look at this sentence on the screen at the moment, you can see what it says. What do you think those sort of those red sort of links are there to demonstrate? What is the point of those red links? Imagine that the sentence is being spoken. What is that indicating, do you think? Those red links under those words. Any ideas? Ah, very nice. Liaising the sound. Very nice use of technical terminology there from Joseph. Okay, liaising the sound of the two words. I like that. What does that mean when we talk about liaison? Okay, Afida's talking about fluency. Yep, so speaking in a fluent manner, you'd be expected to do what these red links are indicating here. Okay, so Jasmine's saying about pitch. It's not so much about pitch in this case. It's something a little bit different. Okay, so yeah, let's go to what Joseph was saying then. So liaison, basically what we're looking at here is the linking of sounds. So you've got 4 separate words. They're written as 4 separate words, but in speaking, they'd be spoken almost as if it was one word. Okay, so as a native speaker, one would expect to hear something like, what's it about? I'll say that again. What's it about? Okay, how many pauses did you hear when I said that sentence? How many pauses did you hear between those words? I'll say it one more time. What's it about? Okay. So yeah, you've got it there, Fernanda. Yeah, I didn't pause at all. There wasn't a single pause. I linked all of those words together. Yeah, I didn't say, what is it about? You know, or what is it about? There was no pause. It was, what's it about? It was all said as if it was one word. Now, why am I doing that? Why am I speaking in this way? Or, you know, why as native speakers do we speak in this way? The answer is because of something which is called consonant vowel linking. So if you notice in this sentence, the final letter of each of these words is a consonant. And the first letter of the words which follow are vowels. So we tend to link words which end in a consonant to words which begin with a vowel. So what has a T, which is a consonant, as its final letter. Is has a vowel, which is its first letter. Is has an S, which is its final letter. It has a vowel, which is its first letter, etc. So we're linking these words together. And that's something we do as native speakers. We tend to link words which end in a consonant to words which follow as a vowel. Consonant vowel linking, which is a form of, as Joseph was saying, a form of liaison when two words are linked together. So why is this important? Well, just imagine if you're listening to someone saying a phrase where they could be saying 2, 3, or possibly 4 words, and it sounds like they're only saying one word. If we're not familiar with these forms of linking, if we're not familiar with these forms of speaking, we're going to be very confused once it comes to going into the exam. So again, this is where practicing and listening to native speakers as much as possible, even now, just listening to me speak and the way that I will speak, the more that you do this, the better you're going to be prepared for actually going into the listening exam and being able to make sense of what you hear. It's very different to looking at written English. I've had students who are very good at reading English, but really struggle when it comes to listening because they're not prepared for the differences in terms of how we would say something compared to how we might write something. And this is a key example of how it can be different. Written as 4 words, but pronounced almost as if it were one word. Another example of how when we speak, it can be quite different to how we write in terms of pronunciation might be in a phrase like this. So I'm just going to write the phrase here on the chat. So here we have technically 3 words. There are 3 words in British English anyway on the screen. You can see that, you know, okay, we've got the contraction with can and not. But if we were saying this in terms of actually pronouncing it, as a British speaker, I would say something like this. I would say, can't tell. I can't tell you the results right now. Can't tell. So in that phrase, what do you notice? Something has disappeared. Something is missing when I say that phrase. What is it? Can't tell. I can't tell you the results, I'm afraid. What is missing? Yeah, okay, so not has been contracted. Of course, it's been contracted, yep. But even just with that phrase as it's written, there's something missing. There's a sound which I didn't make there. Okay, I think most people can see in the... Okay, no pause. Okay, yeah, in that phrase, there wasn't a pause. That's true. And something also was missing because I said, can't tell. So I didn't say, I can't tell. I said, can't tell. So what was missing is good. Yeah, Fernanda said it. It's the t. One of the t sounds disappears. That's another thing which happens a lot with native speech is that we will lose certain sounds as we're speaking. So if you've got 2 t sounds which are next to each other, one of them disappears. Now let's go back to accents. Let's imagine that an American person says it, and an American person wouldn't say can't, the pronunciation of the vowel would be different. They would say can't. So they would say something like, can't tell. I can't tell you the results. I can't tell you. Now, suddenly what we've got, it sounds like perhaps the person, do we know if it's positive or negative? Are they saying I can tell, or are they saying that I can't tell? It becomes very difficult to distinguish in those sorts of situations. So that's one of the ways in which pronunciation can be a little bit tricky. What do we do to prepare ourselves? Well, as I was saying before, practice, practice, practice. And what we would be aware of if we've listened to a lot of native speech is actually, even in American English, if they were to use it in the positive form, they would often use a shorter sound. So they would say something like, you know, I can tell you, I can tell you. So it'd be like kun, almost, you know, that very weak sound, kun, where if it's negative, it would be can. So just hearing that vowel change can actually tell us whether something is positive or negative, okay? And so this is what I'm saying. It's one of those things where the more familiar you are with hearing native speakers and native accents, the better you're going to be able to make sense of what you hear when it comes to the actual listening. So there's, you know, this is something which you can be doing, spending a lot of time on. For those who've spent a lot of time listening to native speakers already, you're going to be more familiar with this and confident with this than others. If you haven't spent a lot of time doing that, it's something you want to be doing as much as possible.
That's really good, Alexander, because a lot of students, they find certain accents more difficult than others. So your examples of, for example, water heater, the way they say it in England and in America, it's sometimes so difficult for students because they're just not getting enough practice by listening on a daily basis, every single day, to different kinds of accents. You could experience Australian accents, New Zealand, South African, UK, Irish, Canadian, American, all of these accents. You have to be prepared for all of these. And because a lot of students, they complain after the exam, I didn't understand what that person said. Well, they tell you this in advance, the OET, that there's a variety of accents. So it's your job to make sure that you're fully prepared for them. So before we continue with the rest of the class, are we enjoying it so far? Are we learning a lot? Please tell me one thing in the chat box, whether you're on Zoom or whether you're on Facebook Live, one thing that you've learned so far that you didn't know before, okay? One thing that you learned so far that you didn't know before. And as Alex said at the beginning, please make sure that you participate, actively participate. Don't be a passive student, okay? Please tell us everything that you're learning, okay, in the chat box. And I should say as well, who wants a free mini mock exam for reading and listening? Because we have got that for you on our website. Well, I say on our website. That's not technically correct. What you need to do is you need to share the Facebook Live video to your Facebook page. Okay, so step one, share this video right now, this lesson that you're watching, share it to your Facebook page, step one. And then step two, underneath this video in the comment section, please type, I have shared the OET live class video. So I have shared the OET live class video, and you will get our free mini OET mock exam for reading and for listening. Okay, thank you very much. Let's see what comments people are saying on Facebook as well. Okay, and I don't know if you've got anything coming through, Alex.
I think Tiapa is saying it's acknowledging that different accent is important, which it certainly is. And I think Seema saying she's learned about how sort of liaising the sounds or linking the sounds is something which happens. So I think that might have been something new for Seema. Jasmine saying the same about linking words as well. Yeah, so
good. We've got Vanessa who's saying, can I make mistakes in spelling of words in the listening exam? Good question.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, there is a bit of flexibility in terms of spelling for OET listening, as long as what you've written can be recognised as being the answer it was intended to be. If there are small spelling mistakes, then that is something which is not necessarily going to cost you the mark. Of course, you want to try and spell as accurately as possible, but it is not something which is necessarily going to cost you the mark.
Yeah, as long as the examiners can understand the meaning of what you're trying to say. For example, if you wrote, as we talked yesterday, Alex, rheumatoid arthritis. If you said, I mean, that's a difficult one for either of us two and native people. My sister's a nurse in the UK. She would find it difficult to spell rheumatoid arthritis. So if you didn't spell that 100% correct, but they understood the meaning, you still get the marks. and who said, I noticed that the recording for the listening test, the speakers are too fast. Well, that's because, Juliet, you need to do more practice. Okay, it's not that they're speaking too fast, it's their native speed, the native speed in which they speak. So it just means you need to do more preparation. But I'm sure if you constantly keep listening to those accents, listen to podcasts, obviously do the OET listening examinations and listen to the recordings, listen to different things out there, listen to YouTube videos without watching them, just listen to them. If you do that every day, then it'll become normal and you won't say these people are speaking too fast. If you're saying that they're speaking too fast, it probably means that you're not ready to take the exam. That's a good marker for you. If they're speaking too fast and you don't understand, it means that you're not ready. So don't book your exam. Okay.
Okay, good. So I hope so far you've picked up some useful tips. What I focused on up to this stage is basically what you should be doing in terms of your general listening development. This is something which is going to improve your listening, not just in terms of the OET exam, but it's going to improve your listening in general. So if your plan is to live and work in the UK and or Canada or the United States, obviously improving your listening skills as much as possible is going to be really useful for your day-to-day experience. It's also going to be useful for the exam too, of course. What I want to look at now are some tips which are specific to the OET, looking at the actual exam format. So let's have a look at this then. So if we have a look at the next tip, before, in fact, I'll come back a bit there, before you actually hear anything in terms of the listening, you're going to have the exam paper in front of you. What should you be doing with that exam paper? What should be the first thing that you engage in before the recording actually starts and you start listening to the dialogue? What do you think? Yeah, okay. So Joseph's saying reading the questions, absolutely. Reading the questions and, okay, great. Yeah, Islam is saying guess words. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, read questions carefully, guess words. Good. Good. Yeah, good. Yeah, definitely. So you're reading the questions, and as Islam was saying as well, you're doing something which we call making predictions, which is the same idea in terms of trying to guess the words. But the difference, I guess, between a prediction and a guess is a prediction is based on evidence, whereas a guess, could be more random than that. So we want to actually use the notes that are going to be written in front of us to help us once it comes to actually doing the exam. So just quickly, I'm sure that most of you will have seen this before, but just to remind us, or just in case there are any of us here who haven't seen an OET question paper for a little bit of time, I just want to share this with you now. So on the screen, should be coming up now. Yeah, okay. So you should be able to see here on the screen the beginnings of listening part A. And you can see here that you've actually got a lot of information. So yeah, you've got to answer these 5 questions, but there's a lot of information around the questions which can help us in terms of actually making those predictions before we even listen. So we get some time, we have 30 seconds, as it tells us just here, to actually look at the notes. So as well as looking at the notes, we want to be thinking to ourselves, okay, what kinds of words could go in between these statements here, between these notes? So looking at number 1, has had, over a long period. Okay, what kinds of words can go in here? So the first thing we can think about when making predictions is grammatical class. Okay, great. So we've got Hafida, Crispin talking about nouns. Yeah, it's going to be some kind of noun or some kind of noun phrase, isn't it? Can we be even more specific than that? It's a noun or a noun phrase, but relating to what? Okay, fantastic. Yeah, okay. So good few of you here talking about disease. It's going to be some kind of disease or symptoms. Absolutely. So this is what we can prepare ourselves for here. So when we're listening, we're not just listening randomly. We're not just sort of sitting back thinking, okay, they could say anything here. I have to be prepared for any word in the English language which could be used. No, it's going to be a little bit more specific than that. We're listening for a particular type of word or phrase, in this case, a noun. And even more specifically than that, we're listening for a disease or symptoms that, which would make sense of those case notes. Okay, if we have a look at number 2 as well. What about number 2? Same idea, reports are frequent, and then we have the gap, and then sensation in the last year. What could this be? Are we still looking at a noun? Okay, so we've got Fernanda Floridel saying, yeah, adjective in this case. So yeah, absolutely, because we have the noun here, sensation, so we need some kind of adjective in order to describe, to qualify this noun. And what kind of adjective might you expect it to be? Relating to what? Is it something positive, something negative? What would you expect it to relate to? What kinds of sensations can you have? Okay, so something negative. Yeah, Hafida, Simi Bobby, Sarah. Yeah, we would expect that. And we could even be more specific in terms of the type of adjective we might be talking about. So talking about a sensation, tingling sensation, good. Numb sensation, perfect. So sometimes we can be really specific. Now, of course, we have to listen to the recording in order to get the answer to the question. But if we've already got some pretty strong predictions in our minds, it's going to help us focus on the information that we need in the actual listening. Okay, so making predictions is an important aspect of what we should be doing as well. So let's go back. Where did we get to? So great. So we've got the predictions now, but looking at the notes, it's not just about making predictions. Imagine now the recording has started. So we've begun to start listening to the recording, where we're starting to fill in those notes. How else can the notes help us? Let's just for a second, actually, I want to go back to where we were before. So, yeah, we're listening. We've got, has had, a particular disease over a long period, reports a frequent tingling sensation, let's imagine. So we're listening. How else can the notes help us? I'm just scrolling down at the moment. What do you notice here on the sheet in terms of not just the information around the gaps, but other information as well? I'm looking sort of particularly at this sort of information here. How can this information help us as we are listening? Okay, great. So yeah, looking at the titles, looking at headings, subtitles. Absolutely, yeah. So the subtitles are basically our guide. They're going to guide us through the listening. So let's imagine that we've missed one of the answers. So we're looking at number 4, word used to describe symptoms. What are we looking for here? It's going to be some kind of adjective. But let's imagine that we missed it. Oh, damn, we missed that word. So we have to move on. As we're listening to the interaction, most of the speaking is going to come from the patient, because the patient is obviously talking about their symptoms, reporting what they've experienced, talking about their background. But when the doctor speaks, the doctor is going to help us to orientate our way through the notes. So the doctor's first question is going to be about the background. And then the doctor's going to start asking questions about the effects and the condition on their everyday life. And then the doctor's going to start asking questions about the diet. So if we miss some of the questions, and it is possible that we might miss 1 or 2 of the questions as we're listening, to stop us from losing track completely, because that can be one of the most difficult challenges for listening part A, is that we miss one of the questions, then suddenly it's like, oh, where am I now? Are we on question 6? Are we on question 7? I don't know where we are. But if we actually sort of, we've missed one of them, but then we listen to what the doctor is saying, the doctor is going to help us orientate our way through the notes. So don't give up, keep focusing. And then when the doctor speaks again, and then the doctor will mention about conditions and the effect of the conditions and how this is impacting the patient, it's like, great, okay, the doctor's spoken. That's a cue for you to think, right, okay, now I can move on to question 6 and question 7, even if you miss the question before. So use your notes as a guide. As well as predicting the answers to the questions, you're also predicting how the conversation is going to develop. In fact, it's not even a prediction, it's telling you on the actual question paper, it's telling you how the conversation will develop. So this is going to help you to stay connected to the conversation so that you don't get lost and so that you can keep following what is happening, even if you miss one or two of the answers. Okay, so use the notes as a guide to help you as you're listening. And the final thing that I want us to have a look at in terms of a tip before we do a little bit of practice is, I'm going to bring it up now. Yep, so use the notes as a guide. Is, yeah, some advice. Don't try to understand every word. So why do you think I'm using this as a tip? It might seem a bit strange, a bit counterintuitive at first. It's like, well, you know, surely I must understand every word because this is a listening test. If I don't understand every word, then I'm not going to score very highly when it comes to the listening. But there's a reason why you don't necessarily need to understand every word. And why might you think that is? Think about the skill that is being tested here. What is the listening skill that is being tested in listening part A? Any ideas? Okay. Yep, so it's definitely testing your comprehension, no question about that. But what kind of comprehension? It's a specific skill that listening part A is focusing on. Okay. Focus, rapid understanding. Okay, so Joseph said details. Actually, it's not testing detailed listening. Detailed listening would require you to understand every single word which was being said as you were listening. For example, like an instruction manual. If you don't understand every single word of an instruction manual, you're not going to be able to operate the piece of equipment. But this isn't the same thing. This is, yeah, and Anita has said it here, it's specific information. That is what is being tested. You're being tested on being able to pick out specific words and phrases as you listen. That takes us back, actually, to some of the other tips that I've looked at previously. Because if the test is on specific information, what you then need are, let's go back to number 3, the words that relate to your predictions. So you've looked at the gaps, you've made those predictions. Afida's saying it as well. Yeah, it's the key words. You've made predictions on keywords. And what you're listening for is to see if those keywords come up or if something similar to those keywords come up. So the example we were looking at before, we were looking at a noun, possibly a disease, possibly symptoms. What we should be listening for at the beginning of that interaction is when the patient starts talking about the disease that they have or about the symptoms that he or she has been experiencing. So those are the key words. If we don't get every single word as we're listening, we've got to ask ourselves the question, well, do I actually need every single word? And the answer to that question is no, not necessarily. As long as you get the keywords that you need, which help you to fill those gaps, then you've achieved that goal that you need to achieve for listening part A, which is listening for specific information. So let me just have a look at I've got some questions here. What if I write 2 words for the answer, yet there are 3 or 4 words for the answer? Will I be marked wrong? Okay, so this is a good question. When we look at the answers for the listening part A, it's often the case that there are numerous possibilities. So if you were to say, let's say, for example, you know, Alex was talking before about a patient suffering with rheumatoid arthritis. It's often the case that rheumatoid arthritis would give you a mark, but so would arthritis as well if you just wrote that one word. My advice on this is it's always better to put in as much information as you hear. So if you heard 2 or 3 words which relate to the answer, then write those 2 or 3 words. But if you're just writing 1 word, it is quite possible that that will give you the answer as well, because as long as you get the main idea in terms of what the gap is looking for, then you should score the mark. So it's often the case that there is some flexibility in terms of your answers. So writing 2 instead of 3 words may still get you the mark. Obviously, it depends on what the question is. You'd have to look at the specific question. But as a general rule, there is some flexibility there in terms of writing your answers. So Hafida's asking, what about if I missed the article? It's not often the case in my experience that when you're writing answers, it's vital that you're writing articles in there. But again, your answers should make grammatical sense. So if it does require an article of some kind, whether it be or the, you know, the indefinite or definite article, then write it in, because your answers should be grammatical as a general rule. So I'd want to include those in your answers if it is required. Okay, so and another question. Sorry, I'll scroll up here. What is this? Abbreviation acceptable for hypertension. The OET guidelines are that commonly recognized abbreviations which would be used within the medical profession are accepted. But generally speaking, you know, only commonly accepted abbreviations. If it's not a commonly accepted abbreviation, then it won't be accepted. So you've got to use your judgment on that. Similar to with the writing, really, in that respect. What about if you understand the word, but I put the meaning of it as a synonym? Yeah, you should be writing what you hear. So all of the answers to listening part A, you're going to hear in the audio. It shouldn't be necessary to write synonyms for any of the responses. And if you do write a synonym rather than writing what you hear, you are in danger of losing the mark there. So write what you hear. Don't convert it. Don't use paraphrasing, because it should not be required for listening part A that you have to paraphrase your answers. You should be writing what you actually hear in the recording. Yeah, so Sarah's asking about misspelling. As we were saying before, as Alex and I were saying, you aren't penalized on spelling as long as it can be recognized by the examiner. It's that you were writing something which the answer was intended to be, then you will get credit for that. Okay. Yeah, lots of questions here. So how many questions should I get out of 42 to score a B? Okay, so I mean, it varies on this a little bit. Generally, the guidelines are that you want to be sort of aiming for sort of around 75% in order to feel confident that you're going to get a B. So you want to be aiming for sort of 30 plus in the listening in order to get that. So obviously, the better you do, the more likely it is that you're going to get the higher score. Because you've actually got 24 questions in listening part A, you don't need to be perfect in order to get a B. You know, if you're scoring sort of between 19 to 20, then you can still be pretty confident that you're scoring highly enough. And you might miss some. And as I was saying, if you do miss some of the questions, don't give up. Keep going. Use the doctor's notes as a guide to help you. So I want to do a little bit of practice then before we finish today relating to some of the points that I've made here. So I'm just going to play a little bit of audio from the OET so we can do some of this practice. And I just have a few questions that I want us to have a look at together. So let me share my questions with you just now. Bring those up. Okay, so practice then. I'll make this bigger just so everyone can see it. Scroll down. Oh, giving the answers away there. Hopefully nobody saw that. Okay, so the first question then is about accents. I talked about accents before, how it's important to recognize accents. Let's see how good you are at recognizing different accents. What are the accents of the people who are speaking in this recording? Are they American accents? Are they British accents? Are they Canadian accents? So I'm going to play the clip, and I just want you to tell me the answer to that question. So I'm just going to start the audio now, and hopefully you'll all be able to hear it. So
before, complete the notes with information you hear. Now look at the notes for extract 1.
Can everybody hear that?
I can hear it,
Extract
Alex.
1.
Yeah,
Questions 1 to 12.
Okay, good. Okay, good. And I can see in the chat as well, a lot of people saying yes, that it's clear. Fantastic. So as I say then, so listen to the two people speaking. All I want you to do to start with is just tell me, what accent do these people have? And if you hear any sort of words which gave you the clue as to their accents, then please share that in the chat as well. So I'll just play that now.
Mr. Sands, isn't it? That's right, Ray Sands.
Now, I think you've been referred to me because you're suffering from sciatica.
That's right. Not for the first time, actually.
OK, well, I've got some notes here, but perhaps you can tell me in your own words about any previous bouts of sciatica you've had, what treatment you had, what worked for you, anything else you can remember.
Right.
Okay, so what do we think in terms of accents? Okay, I've got a lot of people saying British, yeah, English, even more specific, because of sciatica. Interesting. What was it about sciatica that helped you get the answer to that one? Okay, a lot of people saying British accents, UK, yeah. Okay, we've got one that says Australian here. Larger saying Australian, interesting. Everybody else thinks British. They were indeed British accents, and great. Fernanda is telling us remember. Yeah, right at the end there, that R sound is lost, isn't it? You wouldn't lose that sound if you were an Australian speaker or an American speaker. So that gives us a clue. And I'm sure with sciatica as well, it's that T sound that is going to help in terms of determining that. So good. So yeah, you've got here sort of two British accents. They're actually Northern British. So they're sort of, you know, more kind of Yorkshire way, perhaps, rather than sort of London or further south, and so there are even differences there. So when she's saying stuff like "yeah" rather than "your," you know, "yeah," when you say "yeah," can you tell us in your own words? Yeah, you know, that's something which you would hear more in northern accents than you would in southern accents. So even within the country, there can be some differences. But good, most of you were able to detect there that you had two British accents. So. In terms of what we were talking before as well, with the words, the linking words without boundaries, did you hear any examples of that? I'll just play it just very quickly again, that short clip, just to see if you can tell me if you heard any words linked together, where there were no pauses between two or more words which were spoken.
I think you've been referred to me because you're suffering from sciatica.
That's right. Not for the first time, actually.
OK, well, I've got some notes here, but perhaps you can tell me in your own words about any previous bouts of sciatica you've had, what treatment you had, what worked for you, anything else you can remember.
Righto.
Okay, so any examples here? Okay, so we've got that is right. Well, I guess the contraction "that's right" you would have heard. Yeah, but yeah. So Jasmine is saying you had. So again, this is something which can happen in certain accents. If you lose that first "h" sound in "had," it could be like "you had." Any bouts that "you had," then you've got those sort of those two vowel sounds start to link together. Yeah, you had. You actually get a "w." You had. So yeah, that can happen as well. Righto. Yeah. So again, that's quite a regional example. You're not going to hear too much regional speech because obviously it has to be recognizable to people from a wide variety of backgrounds. But you will hear some examples of regional accents. So good, yeah. So some suggestions here. Also, when she said anything else, that was that linked together, didn't it? Anything else? There was no pause between the two. The thing and then you got that consonant vowel linking again, and also. When she said your own words as well. Again, that this time you do hear the R sound because it's before a vowel. So even in British accents, if you're using the R before a vowel, then you'll hear the R. So it'll be your own words. And so you had some linking there as well. So so there were a few examples in that. Okay, let's have a look now at some notes. So on the screen, you should be able to see some notes here. There's just 4 questions. And it says here, patient's description of condition. So making some predictions then, have a look at the gaps. And I want you to tell me, let's just focus on number 1 to start with. What kinds of words do you think could be said for number 1? So thinking about the grammar, and beyond the grammar, can we be even more specific? So let's see. So pain began when patient injured what? Okay, so we've got some ideas here. Okay, so Anna is saying back. Very nice, very specific here, and it makes sense, doesn't it? Because where would you have sciatica? So using your own medical knowledge here in order to make logical predictions, that makes a lot of sense. So we've gone straight for back. But the process was, some of you are saying noun, so we can narrow it down to noun and then part of the body. Because if you injure something, you have to injure a part of the body, don't you? That can be the only logical thing. And then we've even gone so far as back. Or Hafida has said leg as a prediction as well. Okay, perfect. What about number 2? Any ideas for number 2? Was only experiencing rare. What could go in here? What do you think? Again, if you can't be specific, be general. Part of speech. What idea could we have here? Okay, so Simi Bobby is talking about symptoms. Yeah, could be. Pain. Nasim, Laja is saying that. Symptoms, numbness. Okay, yeah. So some kind of symptom. It makes sense, doesn't it, here? It's going to be a noun or a noun phrase that fits this gap. So remember as well, you can keep it more general when looking at the grammar. 3, any predictions for number 3? What do we think? Sciatica developed around, it then faded, but over the last month. Any ideas? Okay, nice. Yeah. So Joseph and Fernanda are saying a period of time. Yeah, I think that makes sense, doesn't it? Because we look at the rest of the notes, it said it then faded, but then over the last month. So we've got a period of time as part of the notes. So it would make sense if the previous information relates to a period of time as well. Yeah, I think that's a logical prediction. And finally, for number 4, over the last month, it has what? What could we say for number 4? Okay, so Dilip is saying recurrence, but this is where we need to think of the grammar. Okay, so Smita is saying worsened. Yeah, it has. So has, in terms of being an auxiliary verb, what we'd expect to follow that is a main verb. Okay, a verb in the past participle form. So worsened would be a verb in the past participle. It has worsened. So I think, yeah, definitely we want to think about the grammar here and how that can help us. Because if we do end up putting something in there which doesn't make grammatical sense, then we're going to lose the mark. Okay, so good. So some good predictions here then. So let's listen to this short part of the transcript. It's about 30 seconds. And then I want you to write down your answers to questions 1 to 4, okay? Share them in the chat once you've heard them. 2:20. Okay, so I'm going to start the recording now.
Well, it all started when I hurt my back. Ooh, about 18 months ago now.
Okay.
I was giving somebody a hand with a heavy suitcase and I felt it go, you know, woof, just like that. Anyway, I slowly got over that, despite occasional flare-ups. And then, out the blue, about a year ago, sciatica developed. And it was 6 months till that finally cleared up altogether. Now it's come back in the last month or so, I'd say.
I see. And your GP said it was sciatica?
Yeah, I had this pain all the way down my right leg, and she said the real problem was in my...
Okay, so did you get the answers? If you did, please share them in the chat from questions 1 to 4. Just share what you got and see how close your predictions were. Okay. Good. Okay, some good ones here. So, here we go. Yep, some good suggestions here I can see. Good. Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at some. Yeah, good. Good. Okay. So let's have a look at the answer then. So for questions 1, 2, and 4, most of you are giving the right answers there. So pain began when patient injured back. Note the paraphrasing. There was some paraphrasing there. So hurt was used paraphrase for injured. Was only experiencing rare. Most of you got it. Yeah. So flare-ups was the noun phrase here. So a flare-up. and sort of, so flare-up basically being a synonym for recurrence. Okay, so rare flare-ups. You'd want to use the plural here because it's happening, it's countable, it's happening on more than one occasion. So yeah, so flare-ups would have been the one there. And then sciatica developed so a year ago, but it's faded over the over the last month, it has come back. So so that was the answer in this case. So I'll just write the answers in the chat here, just so we've all got them. And yeah, so that's what we should have got here. So I think all of our predictions were pretty good. You know, number one was a body part. Some of you were saying directly back straight away. So your prediction would have gotten you a mark there without even listening on that case. Number two, we talked about sort of symptoms, and obviously a flare-up is a recurrence of the symptoms, so we're pretty close there. We knew that number three was going to be a time period, and for number four as well, we knew it was going to have to be some verb in the past participle form, and obviously sort of come back is a participle form there as well. So our predictions there are helping us in terms of what we need to listen to, and are going to make it a little bit easier in order to get the answers that we're trying to get to. So we didn't get number two. I think there was a bit of a distractor in number two. I think some of you put 6 months in there. So so just be careful there. Yeah, you will get some distracting information which comes up. Jasmine is saying, if we write singular, not plural, will it be marked as wrong? So you want to try and be grammatically correct in your answers. You know, I'm not sure what Alex would say on this one actually, but I think, you know, there's a chance that you could get the mark if you wrote the singular, but I think, you know, was only experiencing, the thing is grammatically was only experiencing rare flare-up. Grammatically isn't quite right, because if it's something, even if it's happening rare, we're talking about something which is happening in terms of sort of it being cyclical or, you know, some kind of sort of repeat experience. So you'd want to use the plural. So I think to be safe, you should be using correct forms, whether it be plural or singular. Spelling mistakes can be, in some cases, accepted, but generally your grammar should be correct when sort of giving your responses here. It's got to fit the notes and it's got to grammatically make sense. So Rababa is saying, if I write flare-ups without the E, again, it's clearly recognizable as being what it should be. So I think there's a good chance you could get the mark, even if you wrote flare-ups but missed the E on that occasion. Yeah, there is some flexibility with spelling, as we were saying before. Okay, so in terms of sort of moving forward, I think do this practice yourself. You know, use some of these techniques as you're listening. When you're doing practice text, it's not just a case of, okay, just practice. Oh, I got this correct, I got that wrong, move on to the next one. Actually start using some of these strategies, and it should be a more useful experience.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Alex. And I think it's something you and I were discussing yesterday in our meeting, that a lot of students, they just say, I want to practice as many practice exams for OET as possible. But as we were discussing yesterday, you could do 100 of these mock exams and you could still be at a C or a C+ the whole time, because you're not improving your skills. You're not employing using the strategies and tactics that, for example, that Alex has been talking about today into your preparation, so that those kinds of things will help you to improve your performance. So don't just rely on the mock exams. You also make sure you're practicing all of these strategies and tactics, etc., that we're talking about today. Very, very important. So thanks very much for that, Alex. Alex will be sticking around for more questions. So please keep your questions coming, everyone. Okay, it's really important that you, like I said before, you practice, you participate as much as possible, and we can keep on helping every single one of you. So let's see what feedback we're getting so far on Facebook message, on Facebook chat, under the Facebook Live video. So yeah, writing, Rosie, you can go to our website, swooshenglish.com, and we've got lots of blog articles, free resources for you on there. And all of our video courses and classes and things like that are on there. And please let me know the biggest thing that you learned today that you didn't know before. The biggest thing you learned today that you didn't know before. okay? I want you to tell me on Zoom, and I want you to tell me on Facebook Live. What's the biggest thing, the number one thing that you learned today that I hope you all wrote down, because you have a pen and paper, as you all promised me at the beginning you would write down notes. What's the biggest thing that you learned today that you didn't know before? Very important. Federica, how can we improve our listening skills? I mentioned at the beginning, Federica, if you weren't here, make sure you're listening to medical podcasts. You can go on, if you've got an iPhone or you got Google Play, App Store or whatever, you can download apps that have these kinds of things. You can go on YouTube. You can look at different websites out there. Just Google it, just put medical podcasts, and you'll find lots of different consultations and conversations between patients and medical professionals, healthcare professionals like doctors, nurses, etc. So they're all really good for you. British Medical, I don't know if the British Medical Journal and the Australian Medical Journal, etc. have things you can listen to, but hey, Google it, see if it's there. You've got so many different things you can use. Listen to YouTube. So just don't look at the screen. Just listen to it. Okay, maybe you could pull your laptop down, or even just listen to it on the bus or the train or whatever. Get your phone and just go on YouTube and just listen to it. That will be really good for your listening skills. So like here today, we've had the example of the British accent in the OET exam question that we did for listening. So you can listen to that, but also listen to American, Australian, even films and things like that. Podcasts, I listen to podcasts on a daily basis. So listen to interviews that people have, and it doesn't just need to be medical. It could be non-medical as well. So these are all really good for training your ear. You can even put in on Google Australian accent, or listen to Australian accent, or listen to Australian podcast, whatever, American, Canadian, etc. All of these will be really good for your practice. So please let me know, like I said, what was the biggest thing that you learned today? Let's see what people are saying. Okay. What are people saying? What did they learn? Okay. Seema said, please can you arrange once a week the same online class? Well, Seema, we do these classes completely free. Okay. So we have to do a variety of them. But if you want more in-depth help, more in-depth support, make sure you go to swooshenglish.com. We've got our paid intensive courses on there. And this is where we can give you a lot more support, because in these classes, of course, it's free. So we've got hundreds of people who join us in these, and we can only give this much support to each person because we've got so many people. But when we have people in our paid courses, we can give this much support and beyond, when we are able to work with you in a smaller class setting and help you as much as possible with things like mock exams, things like that. So a lot of people saying they learn about accents, predicting, said Sabitha, learn to do predictions, learned about accents, the difference in accents today. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so before we go, I'm going to just spend a couple of minutes on finding out who's got their exam in February, who's got their exam in March. Some people said at the beginning they've got their exams at this time. Now, if you've got your exam 23rd of February, you've only got 2 weeks left. So make the most of these next 2 weeks. If you've got it in March, of course, you've got another month. But time is ticking, ladies and gentlemen, and we always get so many people saying, I need practice OET mock exams for reading, for listening, etc. And they want this kind of support because they're saying that they need more. Well, the good news is we have got more. We're going to tell you a little bit about that. If you want to come into the Zoom class, if you're on Facebook right now, just go to swooshenglish.com /free class, which I've put in the message box. But I'm going to tell you about a promotion that we've got. And I'll only talk about this for a couple of minutes because I know some people only come to these classes for the free classes. But there are always people asking more about the paid stuff that we do. So we are the only provider out there right now who's giving 6 mock exams to people. So we've got all of them are on our learning platform. You can watch them anytime, anywhere, and you can, well, not watch, but you can actually practice these examinations. These are for people who've got their exams very soon and they want more materials. So we always get people saying that they want more examination materials. So do you need OET exam practice materials? Because we want you to pass first time with a grade B. okay, in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And we're going to provide this for you. And we've got a limited offer that we're giving because we want to help as many students as possible with their upcoming exams, whether it's February, whether it's March or April, etc. So we've got all of our video courses and we're updating them right now. So we've got our questions, we've got our video lessons taught by our teacher, but we're going to be doing different question types as well. And they'll be ready in the next week or two to make them more aligned to the actual exam. So not only are you getting the video lessons taught by our teachers, but you're getting exercises as well to complete. We've already got questions and exercises on there for you. So that's for reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And once you buy those for $99, we're going to give you our 6 mock exams for free. So what are these mock exams? These are the full-length actual examinations, well, the actual same kind of questions, the same level of difficulty that you would get in the real exam. And you can go through all of those and get your answers immediately. You don't need to wait 3 weeks like the real exam. You get your answers immediately, the scores, and we tell you what the right answers are so you can compare. And then at the end of those mock exams, we've got analysis videos for you taught by our teachers, Alexander, Damien, and Tom, our 3 teachers who put these together. They'll teach you and analyze all of the answers to tell you what you did right, what you did wrong, what you can improve for next time. So this offer for 4 video courses and exercises and the 6 mock exams, everything combined is $99, okay? And you'll get those 6 mock exams for 1 month access. So it's good for people who've got their exam in February and for March. The 4 video courses are available for unlimited access until you pass, okay? Until you pass. So even if you didn't pass the first time, you've still got them until you pass. The 6 mock exams, you can use them as many times as you want for 1 month. So you've got all of that for $99. It's usually over $200 for all of this. So I want to help as many of you as possible because I love getting your emails, your messages when you pass and say, thank you, Alexander, Alex, Damien, Russell, Fiona, all of our teachers, Stephen, thank you so much because you helped me to pass my exam and now I can achieve my dream of becoming a doctor or nurse in the UK. So that's our special promotion. I'm going to put that for people on our messenger. So that's the link there, and I've put that on our Facebook Messenger for you, and I'm going to show the people on Zoom how they can get access to that. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming along today. Like I said, I'd love to support you more because only these free classes, we can only give a little bit of support each week because we have so many students. But when you join our paid intensive courses, we can give you so much more support. I look forward to helping you pass your exam. So thank you very much, everyone. Good luck with your studies. And for anyone on Zoom who wants to ask me any questions about their preparation, who wants to know when they should book their exam, when they should take their exam, I will be holding a question and answer session to help you come to a decision. But also, if you want to ask me any other things, in particular, then I'd love to help you. So if you're on Facebook, just go to swooshenglish.com/free class, and you can join us inside on Zoom, and we will be there I'll be there to support you to answer any of your questions that you have. So for everyone on Facebook, thank you so much. Of course, if you do need more OET mock exams, then make sure you join our promotion, which I've just put on Facebook Live for you. You can go ahead and click the link for that. So thank you very much to everyone on Facebook. For everyone on Zoom, I'm going to continue the question and answer session right now. So thank you very much, and I hope you got a lot out of today's class.